Christophe, this week you announced the 2020 World Press Freedom Index. Give us the highlights.
Uh, Thanks, Maria. I am so glad to speak with you. The 2020 edition of the World Press Freedom Index shows clearly that we are entering a decisive decade for journalism. The next 10 years will change the game for press freedom because of converging crises affecting the future of journalism. First, a geopolitical crisis due to aggressiveness of authoritarian regimes. Second, a technological crisis due to the lack of democratic guarantees in the digital space. Third, a democratic crisis, as we know, due to polarization and to new repressive policies in some democracies. Fourth, a crisis of trust due to suspicion and even sometimes hatred against journalists. And fifth, an economic crisis, impoverishing quality journalism. And this coronavirus crisis illustrates the negative factors. We have launched, as Reporters Without Borders, a monitoring tool, the Tracker 19. 19 refers, of course, to the coronavirus, but also to the Article 19 about freedom of opinion, an expression of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Have a look at it. We have discovered a lot of crazy stories. I would like just to highlight a few examples. North Korea, the worst country, ranked 180th in the World Press Freedom Index. The totalitarian government ensures the official number of cases of coronavirus remains 0, while at the same time, it has appealed to the international community for help in combating the pandemic. In the Philippines, in your country, Maria, ranked 136, the crisis has highlighted the main elements of the authoritarian course of taken by President Duterte. A new legislation gives the government powers to prosecute any reporter or news organization publishing a report that displeases the government. But the coronavirus pandemic does not only illustrate the crisis that affects the future of journalism, it is itself an exacerbating factor. It amplifies, it multiplies those crises. Economic crisis, for instance. Between 2008 and 2018, US media outlets have lost 25% of their staff, even 47% in the newspapers' newsrooms. And according to the New York Times, recently, since the arrival of the coronavirus, an estimated 33,000 employees of news media outlets have been laid off, furloughed, or had their pay reduced in the United States. In Liberia, really another type of country, ranked 95th in the World Press Freedom Index. Newspapers are not printed anymore since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. How will they survive? Falling sales, collapse in advertising revenue. It is not only an economic issue, it is clearly an issue of press freedom. Geopolitical crisis. Despite the huge responsibility that China bears regarding the control of news and information at the beginning of the epidemic, with all known consequences, Chinese authorities expelled 13 US journalists recently working for quality newspapers, and Chinese diplomats increased their attacks against journalists overseas. In Sweden, in France, in many countries, and China is ranked 177th in the World Press Freedom Index. In a statement published just after we published our World Press Freedom Index, a spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in China said that we are biased. We are not. We just consider that we have to oppose to the new world media order that Beijing is trying to implement. Democratic crisis. There is a crackdown on media in despotic regimes, but also in some democracies, or former democracies. Because some governments consider they can take advantage of the crisis. They implement the famous shock doctrine. As one of the worst examples, an Orwellian law has been adopted in Hungary, ranked 89 in the World Press Freedom Index. Donald Trump in the United States, ranked 45th. This is a ranking of the country, not of Donald Trump. The ranking, Donald Trump would be worst. In the US with Trump, or in Brazil with Bolsonaro, and Brazil is ranked 107. Presidents increase their attacks against journalists, taking advantage of this crisis. In Slovenia, in Europe, a small countries, ranked 32nd, our own correspondent, Blas Saga, has been targeted by a hate campaign fueled by the government after he sent an official freedom of information request on the COVID-19 to the authorities. In some countries, authorities enjoy the opportunities that demonstrations are not possible anymore in the streets. In a false democracy like Algeria, ranked 146, down 5 in the World Press Freedom Index, our own correspondent, Khaled Raheni, was put in jail 3 weeks ago. Of course, we are mobilized to get his release as soon as possible, but international pressure really will help. So please, if you can be of some help, support him. Finally, technological crisis. Sorry if I'm a bit long. The Director General of the World Health Organization, WHO, invented the word infodemic. Infodemic about the spread of false information regarding coronavirus, sometimes quicker than the virus itself. Infodemic is a consequence of the information disorder we live in. Disinformation and misinformation have been amplified. Yes, this COVID-19 crisis amplifies all the simultaneous crises that affect the future of journalism. So yes, the third decade of the 21st century will be a decisive one for journalism. What will journalism look like in 2030? We should not just answer this question. We should do our best. We have to do our best to amend, to improve the answer to this question. It is our duty to create the best possible answer. I think that we at RSF, we have positioned ourselves as a solutions provider. We have amended our strategy. We do not want to adapt to the world. We want to contribute to build it. Maria, you as a member of the International Commission of Information Democracy, we initiated altogether with 25 prominent figures from 18 countries, this commission, and we published together a declaration. And in this declaration, the preamble states, I quote, "Knowledge is necessary for human beings to develop their biological, psychological, social, political, and economic capacities." Biological and psychological capacities come first in this declaration. Right to information is inherent to the right to health, exactly what is today at stake. We succeeded to have 36 countries signing an intergovernmental partnership on information democracy based on our declaration. With 10 other organizations, we created a new entity, the Forum on Information Democracy, to implement this partnership. We also launched the Journalism Trust Initiative with 120 media outlets all over the world, unions, consumers associations, press councils. It aims at creating concrete incentives for the media outlets that comply with basic principles of journalism. We just now enter the implementation phase. So what I mean is that there are solutions. Those solutions have to be global, have to be structural. And we do believe that all those solutions, they can help change the game. We have to do this. And I would like just to take a few seconds, if you agree, Maria, to thank all those who support us for doing this. We have to work all together. You embodied journalism. You embody, Maria, the defense of journalism in the Philippines, of course, but all over the world. I can say this. I I saw you in so many circumstances everywhere with your courage, with your determination. I would like to thank the RSF team, sections, offices, correspondents, partners. I would like to thank also our donors who make our work possible, and especially just after the release of this World Press Freedom Index, a foundation based in the Netherlands, Adesium, which has been supporting the development of the World Press Freedom Index for years. We will continue to develop it. And just as a conclusion, when we had this talk a few days ago, together with Joe Stiglitz, with Rana Ayoub, Edward Snowden, and you, Maria, Edward Snowden expressed something you must also remember. Edward is great for many reasons, including the clarity and the accuracy of his conception of the role of journalism. When he secreted his digital revelations about the NSA, he turned them over to Glenn Greenwald, this journalist who used to work with The Guardian. We know that Glenn remains under attack now in Brazil for his investigations. So I have a special thought for him. But what Edward said a few days ago, he said, I did it because I trusted journalists. I trusted journalists. Oh, what a wonderful sentence in the world where we live in. So we can be optimistic, Maya, I think.